Hello everyone, I trust you're doing very well. In this video I'll be showing you how to draft a basic bodice block. We'll be focusing on the upper torso and then that of the skirt, but I'll be joining together as a dress. Remember the videos that I did previously on how to take body measurements? You will need all those measurements in making this pattern. So you need to get them close by for us to start. Now let's get started. You need a ruler, you need a pencil, you need tracing wheel, you need eraser when you make mistakes, you need paper cutting scissors, you need French curve, you also need yardstick for drawing longer lines, and then you need hip curve, and then you also need a sheet of brown paper, and then finally you need a tape measure. You can't do anything without a tape measure, so you need a tape measure. Now I guess you're ready, so let's get started. So you're going to put your brown paper on your table and then we start. So to start, you're going to draw a straight line from the edge, from the shortest edge of the brown paper. I like to do it 1.5 inch. You can do yours 1/2 inch or 1 inch because I don't like starting from the edge, so that's why I do that line. Now when you're done with that, you're going to need your vertical measurements. Remember them. So the first one you need is your shoulder to bust measurement, or shoulder to nipple measurement, or shoulder to apex measurement. So you're going to mark it down starting from the first horizontal line that you drew. You're going to mark it down. So mine is 10.5 inch, so that is what I'm marking right now. So you mark it down all throughout. And then when you're done, you're going to draw and connect all those dots with a straight line. So this thing, just do it step by step. Don't try understanding everything before you start. Just do it step by step and you're going to be fine. You're going to understand, at the end you're going to realize that it's easy. Now once you're done with that, you're going to mark it as your bustline so that you don't confuse it with something else. So you mark it as your bustline. Then you do the same shoulder to waistline. So shoulder to waist, you're going to do the same thing. Mine is 16 inches. So you start from the first horizontal line and you mark 16 inches down to get your waistline. Now when you finish marking, you're going to connect all those dots with a straight line using your ruler, and then you're also going to mark it as your waistline so that you don't confuse it. Like I said, one step at a time, one step at a time. Don't try to understand the whole thing, just one step at a time. At the end, you realize that it makes sense and you get something very nice. Now you do your hip depth or your waist to hip. So my waist to hip is 12 inches. So that one, you start from your waistline down and then you mark your hip line. Mine is 12 inches. So from your waistline all the way down to your hip. Mine is 12 inches. So you mark it and then you connect it with your straight line, and then you write on it that that's your hip line so that again you don't confuse it. So at the end you're going to have now 4 lines. So right now you have 4 lines. You have the first one, the first horizontal line at the top. Then you have your bust line, your waistline, and then your hip line. So now you're going to work on your horizontal measurement. The first one is your bust measurement. You divide it by 4. So to divide it by 4, you first divide it by 2 using the tape measure as I'm demonstrating it. And then after dividing it, you divide it again by 2. So mine bust is 32. So when I do the first one, I get 16 inches. And then the second one, I get 8 inches. Well, it's easier. 32 is easier. But there's some measurements that are more complicated. Like maybe if you get 37 to 8. That one is not that easy, so you use the tape measure to help you out. Then after doing that, you mark it on your bust line. Bust measurements divided by 4, you mark it on your bust line, the second horizontal line that you drew, so you mark it there. And then you repeat the same for your waist. Waist measurements divided by 4. My waist is 26 inches, so when I divide by 4, so first one divided by 2, I get 13. Then I divide again, I get 6.5. So you mark it on your waistline, which is the third horizontal line. You mark it there. So I'm taking my time to show you so that you don't get confused. So you mark it on your waistline. Now after marking that on your waistline, what you are going to do is that you're going to add an extra inch to your waistline. That one will be for your dart. So you add an extra 1 inch. Extra 1 inch. So the 6.5 that I marked, I add another one, I get 7.5. Now you're going to do the same for your hip measurement. Divided by 4. My hip measurement is 39 inches. So I'm going to divide it by 4. So first by 2. And then after that, I now divide it again and I get the hip divided by 4. And I mark it on the hip line. So you are marking it on the 4th line. Now once you're done with the marking, you're now going to connect your bust to your waist. How am I speaking like a Nigerian? You connect your bust to your waist, and then you connect your waist to your hip using your yardstick. If you don't have the yardstick, then use your ruler. But then you agree with me that the human body is not that straight. So you now have to put in some curve. That's why you need your hip curve. So I'll be using the hip curve to put in some shape there. But then me, I'm not that curvy. So I'll be using the least curvy part of the hip curve to do it. But if you are very curvy, you have hips and all that, you can use the curviest part of the hip curve. So I'll be demonstrating it for you to see. So you can use the curviest part of the hip curve to trace from your waist to your hip line, like I'm doing right now. Okay, it's not that visible, so let me do it again. So now you have 3 lines. You have the first line is the line that I use the yardstick, or you can use the ruler to do. So that one, if the person doesn't have shape, then you can use that one so that you don't create artificial hairs of the person. And the second one, when the person is a little bit curvy, and the last one is when the person is really curvy. Now once you are done with that, you're now going to take your across shoulder measurement and you divide it by 2. Remember, shoulder to shoulder. So mine is 40. So when I divide it by 2, I get 7. Then you go to your very first horizontal line that you did, and you are going to mark it from the center. You mark your 7 inches. Mine is 7 inches. Yours may not be 7 inches. So mine is 14 divided by 2 gives me the 7 inches. So I mark it. Now when I mark it, I'm now going to drop down from that point. I'm going to drop down by 1 inch. The reason why we are dropping down by 1 inch is because the shoulder is not straight. We have a slope on your shoulder. You agree with me that the shoulder is not straight. So that's why you're marking 1 inch down. You're going to make sure that that one to the length is 7 inches. For me, it's 7 inches. So yours has to be the same measurement as your across shoulder, divided by 2 from the center. So you mark it. Now when you mark that one, you're now going to take your single shoulder measurement. That is from your tip of your neckline all the way to the tip of your shoulder. That's shoulder measurement. And then you're going to pivot your tape measure so that your tape measure will now cross the first horizontal line. So using your single shoulder measurement. So mine is 4 inches. So these are the 4 inches crossed. Then you mark it there. Then that is it. You have your shoulder. So now you connect the 2 lines, the 2 points. Then you have your shoulder measure, your shoulder slope. So you now label it as your shoulder slope. So you can see that little by little it's taking shape. Now once you're done with that, you're going to calculate your chest line measurement, or you can use your upper bust measurement, but I'll be calculating the chest line measurement. So for your chest line, what you actually do is you take your bust divided by 6. So that one you can use the calculator, bust divided by 6. And then after dividing by 6, the results that you get, you add 1.5. 1.5. So what I got was 6.8. So now you're going to mark it down from your shoulder slope. That's measurement that you got. You mark it down from your shoulder slope. So watch very carefully. You mark it down, and then you are going to draw a straight line. Make sure that the line is very straight, horizontal line that is straight. Now once you're done drawing that straight line, you mark it as your chest line so that you don't confuse. So now that one has now become your second line. From the top is now your second line, which is the chest line. And now you connect the 2 points, that is the shoulder slope point and then the chest line point. You connect those 2 marks. So take your time and do it. Don't rush. When you watch one thing, then you do that one like that. Don't try and understand everything. Just do it one. At the end, it will make sense. Now you find the midpoint. That is, you divide that line that you just drew by 2, and then you find the midpoint, and you mark that midpoint from your shoulder slope. So since it's divided by 2, either from your shoulder slope or from your chest line, it's still going to be the same because you divided it by 2. Now when you've done that, now you're going to mark inwards from that midpoint 1.5 centimeters. Not 1.5 inches, but 1.5 centimeters inward from the midpoint. Do you have that one? Then when you're done with that, you're now going to extend your chest line by 1.5 inches. This time around is inches, so you're extending your chest line by 1.5 inches. And now you're going to connect those 3 points. That is the extension of the chest line, the inward midpoint, and then your shoulder slope. You're going to connect those 3 points using your French curve. If you don't have the French curve, you can use freehand. So you draw it slowly, and you connect those 3 lines. So you use this video to guide you in how curved it is to help you out if you don't have the French curve. Now that is what is going to be your front armhole. So what we are drawing now is actually your front armhole. So connecting chest line extension, midpoint, inward midpoint, and then your shoulder slope. There you have your front neckline, and then you label it so that you don't get confused. Now once you're done with that, we are now going to work on our back armhole. So for our back armhole, we are connecting the midpoint itself, not the inward midpoint, but the midpoint itself to the chest line extension. The reason why the front armhole is different from the back armhole is because the front bodice is curvier than the back. You agree with me that because of the back, because of the breast, the front is curvier than the back. Now after you've done that, now you remember your center front measurement. That is from your waist up to your throat, that measurement. So for the front one, you're going to mark starting from the waist upwards. So mine is 12.5 inches. So from your waist upwards, you mark it. Now after doing that, you're now going to connect that mark that you just marked with your shoulder, and that is how you get your front neckline. Simple, using your French curve. Then you do the same thing with your center back. So my center back is 14 inches. So you mark from your waist upwards, and you connect with your shoulder, and then you have your back neckline. Simple and easy, using your French curve. And so you label it so that you don't get confused. Now once you're done with that, remember your apex measurement or your nipple to nipple measurement. You divide that measurement by 2. Now my nipple to nipple or apex to apex is 8. So divided by 2 is 4. So you're going to mark on all the lines, beginning from the bust line. You mark on the bust line starting from the center. Then you also mark on the waistline. Then finally you mark it on your hip line. Now after marking on these 3 horizontal lines, you join all those points, the 3 points, the point on your hip line, the point on your waistline, and then the point on your bust line. Using your yardstick. If you don't have the yardstick, then you can use your ruler. But then if you're using a ruler, it means you would have to draw another point in between your hip line and your waistline so that your line is very straight, using that same apex to apex divided by 2 measurements. So after connecting those 3 points, what we're going to do now is you're going to work on our dart. But then to do that, you're going to mark 1 inch below your bust line. On the line that we just drew, you mark 1 inch below your bust line and then 2 inches above your hip line. The reason is because front dart starts 1 inch below the bust and end 2 inches above the hip line. Now you're going to mark your dart. Remember, we added 1 inch extra, so we are taking out that 1 inch that we added. So you do as demonstrated in the video, ½ inch on the left side of the line and ½ inch on the right side of the line, and then you're going to connect to the points below the bust line as being demonstrated, and then you do the same thing at the hip line. So the point above the hip line, which is 2 inches above the hip line, you connect. Now, when you're done with that, you're going to extend from your hip point downwards so that you can get a full, let's say, dress up to your knee. So it depends. If there's enough space, you get it to your knee. If there's not, then to the edge of it. So this is what we have so far. This is what we've been doing. This is what we have so far. So this includes the front bodice and then the back body. So now you're going to try and extract the back from what we have here so that we'll be left with the front. So you're going to fold your brown paper into 2 and you're going to align the edges, the straight edges. You're going to align it, so you can use pin to hold them together, or you can use masking tape or sellotape. I use pins to align them together. And once you're done aligning, you're going to smoothen your paper. And then you cut on the border marking. So you're going to cut on the back neckline. So you cut on the back neckline, you cut on the shoulder, and then you cut on the back armhole. Not front armhole, back armhole. And then you cut on the sides or on the border markings, not the inner markings, the border markings. So now you trace out your lines. You trace out the chest line using your tracing wheel. So using your tracing wheel, you trace out your bust line, your waistline, your hip line. You also trace out the different hip lines on the side. Then you trace also the straight nipple to nipple, the measurements, the line, the straight line, you trace that one. Then when you are done, you can now separate the two papers. So one will be your back neckline, one will be your front neckline. So the one below will be your back neckline, the one on top is your front neckline. So now you can take off the back neckline so that you're left with your front neckline, and so that you're also left with your front armhole. So now you're going to label it as your front basic bodice block. So you're done with the front. Now you go on the back and then you draw your different lines. The chest line, the bust line, the waistline, and then your hip line, and you label it so that you know which is which. And then you also draw out your nipple to nipple line or apex to apex line. And then you extend it to your chest line. Remember, the first one we did ends at the bust line, so you extend it to your chest line. And then you mark 1 inch below your chest line, because the back bodice, the dart starts 1 inch below the chest line. So you mark 1 inch below the chest line. And then you repeat the same procedure for the dart. That is ½ inch on the left side of the line, and then ½ inch on the right side of the line. And afterwards you connect the points to get your back dart. So once you're done with that, you're almost done. So you label it as your back basic bodice block. But now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have our what we call a green line. So a line that is parallel to the edge of the paper, the straight edge of the paper, as I'm doing. So you can do it 3 inches, 4 inches, 2 inches, but there has to be a straight line, because this line is what is going to help us when we are modifying the basic bodice drag to bring out a pattern of a style. This line is going to help us so that our pattern remains straight when we are placing it on a fabric. And then you do the same thing for the other paper. Well, I use the ruler because the ruler is actually 1½ inch. So once it's on the edge, I have a straight line, and then I can trace it out. And then you're also going to mark at the edge of the paper, as you see me do. Anytime that I see this marking on a pattern, it means I have to actually place on fold. So where you are placing, there should be a fold there. Now we are done. And then in my next video, what I'll be doing is I'll be showing those of you who have never used the machine before how to thread it and how to practice. And after that, we are going to do a test fit with our basic bodice block. Then when we are done, we can now start real business. When we test fit and it's correct, we can now start real business. We can now start trying new styles and all that. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. If you have any questions,